Hey there, and welcome to today's Explainer. We've got some really fantastic, highly practical source material from June 8th to unpack today. And, as we look at this beautiful, serene setting of ancient towns, we're going to anchor our entire journey to one really powerful thought. Wisdom is with the modest ones, from Proverbs chapter 11, verse 2. That single sentence is going to act as our North Star today as we dive into the incredibly effective process of setting and actually achieving our personal goals.
Now, I want you to really think about this for a second. Have you ever tried to just change everything about yourself all at once? I mean, it's such a relatable problem, right? Our source material specifically hits on this overwhelming feeling that can pop up when you're reading something deeply reflective, like the Bible. You read about all these high standards, these beautiful qualities, and suddenly you're like, I need to fix every single flaw I have right now by tomorrow morning. You basically want to overhaul your entire personality in 24 hours. And honestly, it is an incredibly common human experience to feel that massive rush of inspiration, only to be crushed almost instantly by the weight of trying to do way too much, way too fast.
Okay, so let's look at what that actually looks like. Trying to apply everything all at once, it just carries this exhausting, frantic energy. It's literally a recipe for burnout. It scatters your attention so thinly that, nothing actually gets done. But contrast that with setting a modest number of goals. This is the core recommendation from our source text, and it's a game changer. It's a calm, steady, and highly strategic approach. It's really about trading the chaotic energy of wanting instant perfection for the focused, quiet power of being intentional.
And that brings us right back to our guiding text. Wisdom is with the modest ones. Now, what's really fascinating here is how it forces us to kind of redefine that word modest. Because so often we hear modest and we think it means, settling for less or maybe just lacking ambition. But in the context of this text, being modest is actually synonymous with being wise. It's a highly strategic focus. A modest person recognizes their own current limitations. They know they've got limited time, limited energy, and limited focus. So instead of foolishly trying to boil the entire ocean, they wisely choose to heat up just one cup of water at a time. So what does this actually look like in practice? The source text gives us a highly practical, 5-step roadmap for self-improvement. It's simple. Keep a list, select one or two things, do your research, pray, and then practice. We're going to walk through each one of these actionable steps to see exactly how this works. All right, step 1. Keep a list of the things you need to work on. Try to picture this. Imagine a heavy, ancient parchment scroll just unrolling right in front of you. And listen, it is perfectly okay if that scroll is incredibly long. It is totally fine to write down every single thing you want to improve about yourself. Just brain dump the whole shebang onto the list. Because getting it out of your head and onto a tangible list, that's incredibly validating. It clears up your mental workspace, you're acknowledging all the areas you want to grow in, which really is the absolute first requirement for making any real progress.
But here is where the magic really starts to happen. Step 2 requires us to select just one or two of these to work on first. Now, notice what this implies. It means we have to consciously, deliberately, leave all those other items sitting on that long parchment scroll for now. You are giving yourself permission to not fix everything today. You'll get to them in due time. By narrowing your focus down to just one or two items, you're acting like a magnifying glass focusing sunlight. You are gathering all that scattered anxious energy and concentrating it into a powerful, laser-like beam aimed directly at a single target.
So then, of course, that begs the big question. Where exactly should you start? Well, think about your own mental list right now. The source text gives us two very distinct options for picking that first goal. Option 1 suggests starting with an easier goal to reach. Why? Because getting a quick win builds confidence. It proves to you that you can, in fact, change. Now, the second option is to choose an area needing the most improvement. Maybe there's a specific quality that's just causing a ton of friction in your life right now, and tackling the hardest thing first is going to provide the most immediate relief. And you know what? Neither path is wrong. It's simply about choosing the strategy that best fits your current emotional and mental bandwidth. Okay, so once you have bravely identified that single goal, we move on to step 3. Do research in our publications. The beauty here is that you don't have to guess how to improve. You literally don't have to reinvent the wheel. The next logical step is to just seek out specific, practical guidance on that exact topic. If your goal is to be more patient, you dive in and find everything you can read about patience. You gather facts, you look for examples, you find proven strategies. You are equipping your mind with the actual tools required to build that new habit.
And this brilliantly illustrates the next absolute must-have component of the process,
The text advises to pray, asking Jehovah for both the desire and the power to act. This step introduces the spiritual catalyst. What I find just absolutely fascinating about this specific quote from Philippians chapter 2, verse 13, is what is being asked for. You aren't just asking for the final result. You're asking for the desire, that inner motivation, the want to, and the power to act, the actual strength to execute the plan. It recognizes that sometimes we don't even have the energy to want to change, and that's exactly where we need to ask for help.
Then we arrive at step 5, put into practice what you have learned. Guys, this is where the rubber meets the road. You've got your list, you've selected your single modest goal, you've done your targeted research, and you sought the desire and power to act. Now, you must translate all of that preparation into concrete physical action. Because knowledge and prayer, they're the foundation, for sure, but action is the house you build on top of it. You have to take that step out the door and actively practice the very thing you've been focusing on.
Let's move along and see how this all builds, because the psychology behind why this modest approach works is just brilliant. The text notes that having made progress on your first goal, you will likely feel more motivated to work on another one. This is the cycle of motivation in action. Think about it. When you set a massive, impossible goal, you fail and your motivation completely crashes. But when you set a modest goal, when you actually researched, prayed about, and practiced, and you hit it, you get a massive surge of momentum. Achieving that modest goal fuels your desire to look back at that long scroll and confidently say, all right, what's next?
Which brings us right to the climax of our source text today, the snowball effect. The text explains that when you improve in one aspect of Christian living, you'll probably find it easier to do so in other areas too. It's a really fascinating dynamic. It basically means personal growth isn't isolated. A single, small, modest victory creates this powerful ripple effect. If you work simply on being more patient, you might suddenly find, hey, I'm actually becoming kinder too. If you work on self-control, you might find you have more peace. Fixing one small thing literally lifts up everything else alongside it.
And so, as we wrap up our explainer today, I really want to leave you with a single question to chew on. Which one modest goal will you choose to focus on today? Not 10 goals, not 5, just one. Look back at your list, apply the wisdom of the modest ones, and take that very first deliberate step. Because you've got the roadmap now, you understand the snowball effect, and most importantly, you are completely unburdened from the pressure of having to fix everything all at once. Choose your one goal and start building your momentum today.